Alright gang, here's what consists of the day's events. Well, part of it anyway. These are the wheels off the SS. The beauty rings are up there in real good shape, but the owner said they won't hold air, and it's the same deal that I had to do when I painted the wheels on this old Jeep. Rust. So what I've got to do, I'll probably just record this process just for those of you who might want to try it. I use JB Weld, get this cleaned down to the metal, and I use JB Weld as if I was using body filler on a car. And then I sand all that down with 60 grit sandpaper, and after it's primed with epoxy primer and sanded, it looks awesome. And those have held up great, no problems whatsoever. I don't think I've lost an ounce of air, and they are a whole lot worse than those old Camaro wheels. Anyway, I've got some mobile work to do today. I've got to take these two down to the tire shop, get tires ordered for the SS, and bring those rims back and get them repaired and painted, primed. Anyway, I think he wants to stick with that, with the silver. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. It's one busy day. Sure is Monday. I'm on the way to the tire store to drop those two tires and rims off to get them stripped. Then run to put the fuel filter on that old Chevy pickup. Then back to the tire shop to get the wheels and start repairing those. And on the Camaro, since it's going to the chassis guy, I've got to get the front brakes hooked up. I've got all the rear brakes assembled, the drums on it, axle back together, differential back together, axles in it, all that good stuff. So the rear end is good. I've got to get brakes on the front, and that shouldn't be too much of a headache. It was I had a bit of a hiccup with the rear brakes because that turns out it wasn't the original rear end in the car. It had a 331 gear ratio. It was a 12 bolt, but it was when the wheel cylinders that I had were too wide. They were like an 1/8 inch too wide. I went to get wheel cylinders that fit, and the ones that fit the car were for a 75 and up, so 75 to 81 or something like that. Anyway, that was a fiasco, but it all worked out. It's just part of working on cars, especially old ones. People modify and do this and that and the other and swap stuff around, so you don't know what you're working on all the time. Anyway, in a few minutes I'm going to be pulling into the tire shop, so I'm going to cut the camera off and we'll catch up in a minute. Alright gang, here's the trouble. I finally got back from all my running today and everything else I was doing, and I wanted to go in details to what I'm doing here. These rims won't hold air. They've got rust over the years and they're pitted, but they're a good set of Chevrolet wheels for the SS. With that, instead of putting tubes in or whatever, I don't know what really you could do. I don't know how well a tube would work with that application, using a radial tubeless tire with a tube in it. That's just kind of backwards in my mind. Anyway, what I've got to do is fix this. I've got to fix these pits, and the way I did it with my Jeep wheels, like I said before, was to use epoxy. You use JB Weld like you would a body filler, and you get that down to metal, get all the paint off of it, get it down to metal, and you put it on there like you would body filler, and you I use 60 grit sandpaper, and I sand it down, and then I coat the entire inside of that wheel with epoxy primer. I'm using what I used on mine. Let me go over here to the bench where all my paint stuff is. Let's see. Here's what I used on mine. Omni AU MP170 and the MP175 Catalyst. Worked out perfect. Anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing with that. And it, like I said before, these tires, they've been on here 2 weeks now, holding there just fine, and they were pitted a whole lot worse than those Chevrolet wheels in there. So that's what we're going to be doing. this wheel's in pretty good shape. It was the one of the 4 that would hold air, but I'm going to go ahead and sand the inside and get both edges of the bead on this one and get epoxy primer. From everything that's concealed will be primed with epoxy primer. We're going to start with this one. This is our this is the worst of the worst. You can see how pitted that is, and you'd think, really, I mean, that's you'd think it was done or needed a tube, and we don't want to run tubes, so we're going to fix it. Take some paint thinner, guys, to get the rust and dust off the area of the rim where the tire is going to want to seal. I want that. I want the JB weld to stick. I don't want to have any adhesion problems. Go ahead and just chime in with how I'm applying this. Do it any way you want. This is just, I'm just trying to help those who would appreciate the help. I just take it's like a tongue depressor. That's what I mix it with and apply it with. And it's pretty much just a straightforward process. Just get it on there. This stuff flows out real nice. And you know, I do not believe that JB Weld is the be-all, cure-all like duct tape or whatever. You know, some people think it's like snake oil, and I would say, you know, it is if you're thinking it's going to be steel. It's just epoxy is all it is. If you're using it like you're gonna, like you would if you're trying to weld something together with it, forget it. But if you use it for the type of thing it's invented for, it's a pretty good product. You can see how well it flows out. Just get it on there. Don't glob it on, but if you get that, if you get the JB Weld on there, it will flow out. Once we sand that down with some 60 grit and spray epoxy primer over it, we're going to have a sealing wheel then. Now Phil decided he would start the bike up there and let it run. It ain't been started since probably back in January. Anyway, we're going to get back to these wheels. Alright gang, here we go. This is a section where it was really pitted bad, and I've sanded down all that JB Weld. Got it real good. That's where I want it, right there. Alright guys, got a little thinner on a rag. I'm just going to wipe these wheels down, get all the dust and whatever straggling off of it. I went ahead, I don't think I recorded any video, I'm just scuffing down the inside. I want epoxy primer from here all the way on the inside, so I'll scuff the entire inside of these wheels. Let's mix up the epoxy primer 2 to 1. Start there. We'll get our catalyst in it. All right. Get this in our primer gun. Let's see if we can get these wheels taken care of. Epoxy primer on these rims. We're ready for rubber. Steve stopped by today. He said he's going with I think 275. See, 275 70 15s on the front and 275 60 15s on the rear. So they're ready. They're ready for rubber. So there you go. I'm gonna wrap this one up. Later, gang.